All right. Hello. Good evening, folks on the 40-year Substack. I promised you a written project tonight, as you can see by some of the things I put out for you and others. I've been doing a heck of a lot of research and video pasting, music pasting through some of these projects, which were pretty cool for me. Finding this gentleman, Fry, losing names here under pressure, but Cody Fry. Cody. The Blue Devils did a piece with him, which I posted. Pretty cool, actually. I guess they did it back in February. What's amazing is that I never heard a word. No one's heard a word, or I would have seen something or somehow, some way. So that was pretty interesting that they pulled that off, and it's really a great opportunity. I looked today. I think there's 86,000 people have viewed it so far. That's good, very good for a Trump core performance of any kind. So I've been following that up because it put me on to other tunes. I knew Cody Fry from Dirty Loops, a band that I love. I've seen a couple times down in Philly, and Corey Wong, who plays with Dirty Loops sometimes. He's a rhythm guitar player. I've seen in New York City a couple times. So I knew of him, and I knew a couple tunes, but that was it. But I've been pouring through his uh, materials. But anyway, that's all in there. If you take a look at that, it's worth looking through the tunes. I'm kind of on a personal project now to try to open up people's minds to better ballads for starters. There's tons of music out there, but they have to be a little creative and find the source material. Sometimes it's not easy. I don't disagree with that, but it's vital if you're going to engage an audience. So I'll leave it at that for now. So I was going to tell you a story. 'Cause I'm all about stories, and it's related to all this. But I figured I would just tell you so you have it, and then I'll rate it up some other time. As you can hear, I have Moondance in the background here, if you can hear. Um, so I went to see Moondance in New York City. Went with Dr. DiCarlo, a couple friends at Lincoln Center. It was for a show that Michael Cesario had recommended. His friend was a costume designer. It was called Contact. It was different scenes. I think there's three distinct, say, 30-minute scenes. They're all great, absolutely positively great. But one of them was called The Girl in the Yellow Dress, which is kind of the focus. And it was this woman, basically at a bar, jazz club, or whatever, and this gentleman who's enamored with her, but he doesn't know how to ask her to dance. He's terrible at dancing. She's awesome at dancing. Everyone else in the club is awesome at dancing. He's terrible. So it's kind of funny, kind of not, kind of emotional at times, So that was the big piece, and the other two pieces, I've actually took music from there that we used in the show. But Moondance, I always loved Moondance. I wanted to do it. I wanted to use it. I never knew how. Tempo is not right. Jam's great, but what do you do after that? You could never really come up with anything about it. So it was always kind of one of those things. Love the tune, never going to play that one. But so I left the show. I loved it. I actually went back 3 or 4 more times. You'll see in my writings, I do that often. Because when I see things, when I saw things, still when I see things today, it's just part of my nature. I try to figure out how would we use that? How does that translate? What can we do? How could I do that? Where would we do that? And sometimes I have to go back 3 or 4 times. Whether it's Hamilton or Les Mis, which I saw 8 times in 1 week. I kid you not. Before we committed to doing that piece. The reason I went back 8 times in 1 week is the recordings did not even have all of the music back then. All you got was like a best of. You didn't get the traveling music, the between scene music, or anything that people didn't deem important. And we oftentimes needed that. So I would go back with a tape recorder in my pocket regular old cassette tape, do like an hour, which is all I could get, and then go back again, do it again, go back again, do it again. And then I just go back to make sure I had enough copies of everything so I could mesh it into one of my own homemade tapes. So anyway, that's a little side note. So back to Moondance. So I always wanted to do it, loved it, leaving the show, go to my car, um, dropping a couple people off back in Jersey. I lived in Allentown then, so I had to get going. And I I go down to the parking garage, same parking garage I always park at, right underneath Lincoln Center because I don't like parking in the city. I have my certain slots I'll go to. And I went to my car, paid my ticket on the way out, up the ramp. I think you're on 60th, 61st Street there. You have to make, depending on which side you go out, I made a left to get down to like 10th Avenue and then make my way home. As I'm going down, I turn my radio on. Well, back in those days, if you're old enough and you lived in New York, or even Philly, I think, but back in New York for sure, there was a smooth jazz station that we thought was 101.9, which we thought was the best thing in the world because we were all into that, older folks like me that were kind of aging slowly. But we were all into the Bob James and the Tower and some of it was heavier jazz on there, but then there was like Al Jarreau, all kinds of people like that. It was just constant. So you always had it on in the background, or sometimes great tunes came on. So that was on my radio. So I flip it on as I'm leaving, and Moondance is on my radio. Now, I'm not much for coincidence, really. Never was. Maybe I'm a little bit more now. But so I'm like, well, that's pretty weird. So we drive home, everybody drop people off. I start heading for Pennsylvania. I get home, it's got to be 2 o'clock in the morning, right? So I jump in the bed, get up the next morning. It's like 7. I used back in those days a radio alarm clock to click me in. The radio goes on, same channel because I played it at home, and Moondance was on. Same. I mean, now I'm like, okay, this is getting bizarre now. So I just listened to it. I loved it. They had used it as an encore. It's in the radio when I get in my car in New York City. It's on the radio when I wake up the next morning. We had rehearsal that weekend. We were working through the show. They had the opener. I think we were moving through. And so I'm talking to Jay about it at rehearsal. Like we're standing there listening to the horn line and we're kind of hanging off to the side and I'm telling him my little story. I'm like, I'd really like to play Moondance. I can't figure out how the hell that would get into this show, but maybe. I'm like, maybe. He's looking at me and he just stares at me. He goes, I'll do 1 minute for the next camp. So I look over. I'm like, okay, that's a deal. I'll take that. No charge. I'm just going to do a minute so you can check it out and we'll play it. I'm like, got it. So that was that. I didn't really think much about it. And I'm still here. Yeah, I'm still here, but I got knocked out. There I am. So yeah. So he said 1 minute. So okay, that's the end of the rehearsal. Everybody's happy. Everybody's going home. We're doing fine. It comes back the next week. I can hear they're learning everything. Sounds pretty good. It sounds like it's working out. But I'm doing other stuff, God knows. So I hadn't really heard the full ensemble even try to make it through. So now it's Sunday. They're going through everything. I remember we were in the Bergen County Votech, so I was standing against this wall that opens up into a staff room, but pretty much pinned against the wall, Jay standing next to me. And they play through it, top to bottom. It was good. I'm telling you, it was good. But I didn't say a word. I just stood there. And then Jay looks at me, kind of catches my attention. I look over at him. He goes, I'll do another minute. And that was it. He was gone for the weekend. He headed home. I headed home. Came back the next week. He had another minute plus, I believe, and that was it. We were doing it, and we worked it into the show in a pretty cool fashion, which I could talk about at another time. But it was kind of a takeoff on this whole discussion that I kind of pushed out, where anything I've ever gone to in my life, like, well, maybe not in my life, from the time I was 16, 17, I was always been about like, how does this translate? So when I saw chorus line, how does that translate? Now, sometimes I had to say, well, that's not going to work. I don't know how that would work, or I don't know what to do with that, or maybe it's too old or something. Um, but Rent, all these pieces I saw, I would grab pieces of it. Phantom of the Opera, which I saw in England for the first time, then ran back and saw it again the next day by myself. We were there doing a clinic in 1988, and then I saw Les Mis by myself in England, mesmerized. I knew that Santa Clara was planning to do Phantom of the Opera if I had my timing right. Yeah, because we flew over there after '87, so it would have been '88. I knew they were doing Phantom. So I came home and I wanted to hear Les Mis again, and it was in New York. So I went there once and then again, again, again. I mean, I only lived in Garfield, New Jersey then, I think, maybe Teaneck. So it was not anything for me to get into the city. But whatever we ever played, and some things that I can't even think of the names of right now, my daughter would take me to, uh, or I would take her, but she'd encourage us to go to different modern dance pieces, and I would walk away with ideas from there. Certainly symphonic pieces all the time. Don Angelica did take me to the Ring Cycle once. I fell asleep twice, and he told me I was never allowed to go back to that again. The opera I struggled with. Just went a couple months ago with John Wagner and Dr. DiCarlo again. It's tough. That's tough for me. I'm sorry, but that's my point is that you listen and you kind of you think about, like, how does that work? How can we do that? Instead of trying to create pieces from nowhere or generate music that no one's ever heard, it's such an advantage to find pieces that people know because they'll help you along mentally, emotionally. People have a memory of Moondance. They have a memory of Maria. They already have something there. So you try to connect. And or there's just a flow to the tune, like some of these tunes that I posted over the last couple of days. I mean, they just have a flow to them. They have a letter A. They have a build. They have a transition. They have a big ass hit. They do it again. They come down. You don't have to think that through at this point. The question is when there's a verbal piece behind it is how do I translate that? And there's ways to do that now, clearly, clearly. So that's my story. It's absolutely positively true. Not one time did I hear it, but two times within the next 12 hours. And I loved it when I saw it there. And I did go back to Contact 3 or 4 times to watch the entire piece. Uh, we ended up stealing the last piece from that was Farandole, which was in the show as a distinct dance, well, not a dance piece, theater piece, with some dance. It was kind of bizarre, but it was really cool. And we took that because I was like, we should play that. It's fast enough for us. So, in fact, we played it too fast, I think. So anyway, that's it for me. I'll try to write that up in a little cleaner fashion with some tapes and everything. But for now, that's it. And on that note, thank you guys so much for coming and being a part. Bye bye. There's my stop.